All right, welcome to how to trigger your auto no home or your home no auto campaign. Going to be the same steps. I'm going to go through the whole thing and show you the difference between triggering each of those drips. This is the lowest hanging fruit you have in your agency. So I would definitely spend a little bit of time cleaning up your lists to make sure that they are ready to send out. One of the most frustrating things that I've run into in the past is agents that are using their AMS to download their home no auto list is taking that AMS list and then triggering that automation after they get it ready for the import. And 60% of that list, their clients already have auto policies with them because their AMS reporting was inaccurate. So one of the most frustrating things you can do, because it makes your client feel like, wait, do I have insurance with you still because I've been paying you? Is make sure your lists are clean, go through that list and make sure that those are accurate, that they are truly monoline home no auto customers or auto no home customers, same thing. The video is going to have the same exact steps. I'm going to show you how to edit the drips. I'm going to show you how to trigger the drips, start to finish, how to do it. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. The first thing you're going to want to do is go over drips and tools and review the SMS drips that are set up for you. Underneath your email campaigns, if you come into here, you'll see a few steps of home no auto and auto no home email drip. So make sure these are accurate for you. When your account is built out, there will not be these little pencil icons here. So to edit the drip, you'd hit the plus icon and it takes you over here to view your verbiage. If you don't like this, you can simply change it. If you do, great, simple drip to run then. The second step of this drip is an SMS drip. They're tied together. So make sure you come into these drips and we'll look at the home no auto first and then the auto no home. I use this search bar to make it easy to find drips. Just type home, pulls up both those drips. So the first things you're going to want to do is review the verbiage of these. Okay, so you're going to hit this little plus icon to edit the verbiage because this will be set up and there will be no pencil icon. Pencil icon is to edit your settings, which will already be set up for you so you can use the drips. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do before you import the list is check your verbiage, make sure it sounds like you, make sure it feels like you, make sure it's adequate for your agency. So for the first one, for home no auto, we're going to hit the pencil and come into the drip here. And here are all of our steps. Here's all the wait periods for each step. So the first text happens immediately. Second one's 5 days later. The third one is 13 days since the start, not 13 days after 5 days. Since these are customers, we don't want to bombard them so much. So we're going to wait about a week, 5 days to a week in between every contact point. So here's the first one that gets sent out. You're going to hit this little pencil button and you're going to review the verbiage, and these tokens are going to grab the client's name, right? So it's going to say, hey, Jim, I noticed that we haven't added the almost 20% double dipping bundling discount to your home insurance because this is the home no auto campaign. Have we looked into your auto insurance recently? Rates change. So if we haven't done it recently, we should. Want me to take a look at this real quick? And this will grab your name. This would say Matt, your agent, right? So if that's acceptable, just run down the list and view the verbiage. If you change it, make sure to hit the submit button. If you're running the auto no home, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come, you're going to search this, you're going to click auto no home and go to the edit button and review the verbiage. A little less steps here. Review the verbiage, make sure it's accurate. If you want to add a step or two, that's totally fine. So make sure you're checking these, make sure the verbiage is accurate. Then once you're comfortable with the verbiage for either of those campaigns you're going to be running, I'm going to show you how to trigger that. Okay, so the first thing you need to have is I like to do all of my client work stuff like list work on a Google Doc just because I'm familiar with it. I don't use Excel very often. So the first thing you need to do is download your home no auto or auto no home list, get it into a Google sheet. And if your list doesn't come out clean, it's probably going to come out something like this, you know, with all the addresses, etc. But in order to import your lists into Agency Elephant, you need to separate these first and last names. Okay. If you're not familiar with how to do that and you have a list of, say, you know, let's just call this a ton of people in your list and they're all segmented like this, and this is called full name. This title's blank because it may be address or other information. You always want to separate those columns. So I always add a few columns here to make sure I don't ruin my list. If you do this and it deletes out these sections, hit undo, add some more columns and start over. So all you're really going to do is come into this data section and split the text to columns. If it gives you a pop-up here and it doesn't split automatically like mine did, just hit the space option and it'll separate that. If there's middle names, etc., it'll separate it out into a few tabs. So you have to clean it up a little bit. And once this is done, one of the things that I personally hate the most is when information comes across that's all capitals, right? I do not want to send automations out to my customers that have their names capitalized, because it can create a big problem with customers feeling that it is definitely automation. We don't want them to feel like this is automation. We want them to feel like you're sending this text message to them immediately, okay? So the next thing that we have to do is do a proper case feature. So all you're gonna do is insert another column, and you're gonna come over here and you're gonna use the proper case code. So it's gonna be equals proper, you're gonna pick the column, you're gonna hit enter, and here's your title cased name, right? So then you're gonna hit this double box, it's gonna populate everybody title case, and you're gonna do the same thing here. But in this case, you're going to pick C1 because the column is C1. Enter. You can hit this double button so it prompts all this information here. Then I like to just delete out extra columns so I don't have any extra info. And when we import the list, we're actually going to import the proper case name. Okay. So after this is done, I highly recommend removing these tabs up at the top and starting fresh. So you're going to come over here and say, this is going to be the first name that I want to get of the customer. This is the last name. Make sure all of your numbers and your phone numbers in your list all say mobile so that it puts them all into a text-friendly option for Agency Elephant. If it's listed as phone, if you don't catch it on the import side of Agency Elephant, we won't try to text a landline. Phone is determined landline in Agency Elephant, so make sure this header is mobile. Make sure you've got an email here. If you've got emails on file, and you put the header as email. These headers will allow you to automatically map the information to Agency Elephant correctly, okay? Once that's done, you're going to need to download this as a CSV. That is the only way to import information into Agency Elephant correctly. I'm going to drag this to my desktop so it's easy. And then your next steps are importing this to Agency Elephant and triggering the automation, okay? Feel free to pause this video, slow the speed down on the bottom right side of this video in the YouTube speed section and the settings if you need this slowed down, or if you pause it, catch up, okay? Next, you're going to come back over to Agency Elephant. In Agency Elephant, drips are triggered by adding people to the appropriate group. So when you add a lead into the system, or you import a list into the system and you want to trigger an automation immediately, you need to add them into the respective group, okay? So if I want to trigger an Auto Know Home group, I need to put these people in the Auto Know Home BFY group when I import them. You cannot import a list without putting people into groups, and I will show you that next. If I'm triggering the Home Know Auto, I need to put them in the Home Know Auto group, okay? I would highly recommend not doing more than 50 customers at a time, or even 25 customers at a time to get your feet wet so that you don't overwhelm yourself, okay? We're going to come over to the Contact Manager section, and there's going to be an import button on the top right. You're going to click the import button. And this is how we import our CSVs, okay? So select your groups. This is selecting the groups that you want to add people to trigger automation or to sort them correctly. So the first group we're going to add them into is the Customers BFY group. This will not trigger automation unless they have date of birth on the account, and it will trigger life insurance prospecting and happy birthday automation go out if you have birthdays in the profiles that you're importing. As you can see here, I have no date of birth, so it's not going to trigger any of those campaigns, okay? So it's the first thing you want to do is put them into the Customers BFY group so you know who these people are later down the line as you're using Agency Elephant more. The next thing you're going to want to do is put them in the group to trigger the automation you're choosing to trigger. If it's Auto Know Home, put them into the Auto Know Home group. This will trigger the drip. If it's Home Know Auto, put them into the Home Know Auto group, and this will trigger the drip. The next thing that I really like to do is tag my people. This doesn't change your drifts or do anything different. It just helps me sort who people are in my system. So if I'm triggering an Home Know Auto customer, I know they have a home policy with me. So I will add a home policy tag. If you don't have a tag in your system for that, just hit add tag and it will add the tag to your system and populate here. So I want to sort all these people, or add the tag of all these people with home policy because I'm triggering the home no auto group. If I'm triggering the auto no home group, what tag do you think I'm going to put here? Well, I'm going to put auto policy, right? Because this is an auto customer. Okay, this doesn't change the drip. It just helps you sort for the future in using Agency Elephant. Okay. Now to trigger this automation, it's really simple. All I've got to do is select the file that I want to import that I've already cleaned up, that is already ready to go. All I'm going to do is come over here and pick my test sheet that I downloaded and hit the disclaimer and start import. Okay. This section is really, really important. Okay. As you can see, these blue check marks automatically matched fields in Agency Elephant: last name, mobile, email, perfect, but the first name didn't match because it wasn't first name, it was just first. So I have to come over here and select, well, what is this? Well, it's first name. Now, if you notice here, I am only importing the proper case names because I do not want to import these. They are not checked, they are not mapped, so it won't import these, okay? So I'm going to, it'll let me know here you have 2 unmatched columns. That's totally fine. Now that I'm importing this list into the group that triggers the automation, I'm going to hit next. Over in this section, you're going to have a keep existing option. This is part of your data. So if you already have data in Agency Elephant and these people are already in your system, what do you want to do with them? I always use the append option because it won't change any existing fields. It will just add new ones like groups. But if you imported a list incorrectly previously and you put them all the mobile numbers into phone and they put them into the landline section, it didn't text them, you can use the update feature and it will add new information to blank fields and update any fields that aren't accurate. So you can add those SMS and mobile numbers into it, okay? I always like to title my imports so I can keep track of it a little bit easier. So if this was the auto no home, I'm going to put in here auto no home first 25, right? And then my next list will be, 26 through 50. My next one will be 51 through 75, etc. for whatever import you're doing. If this was auto no home or home no auto, whichever one you were triggering, okay? Then you're just going to hit finish import. It's going to send that list to Agency Elephant and it'll take a couple minutes to process. Once that drip starts firing out, you'll notice here on your dashboard, you have outbound drips going out to people. And you'll notice over here that you have an imported complete and an outbound SMS processed as well, okay? That is how to trigger these campaigns. If you've got any questions, you can watch this video again or jump to our Agency Elephant Facebook page. Talk to you guys soon.